Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really fascinating material you sent in this pasted text.
hmm
And honestly, it reveals something I hadn't really thought much about. The Italian origins behind quite a few country names in Latin America and the Caribbean.
It's quite striking, isn't it, how this seemingly diverse group of places shares this, well, subtle linguistic connection back to Italy, often through just a few key explorers.
Right. So today, let's dive into that. Unpack these connections, look at the history a bit.
Sounds good. It's definitely worth exploring.
Okay, let's jump right in. The biggest one, maybe the most obvious once you hear it, is America itself.
Ah, yes, Amerigo Vespucci.
An Italian explorer. The name for, well, two whole continents essentially has Italian roots. Why Vespucci, though, and not Columbus? That's always puzzled me a bit.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Well, Vespucci was one of the first people to really argue convincingly that this wasn't Asia,
Oh,
that it was a genuinely new world.
yeah.
And his writings, his accounts of the voyages, they got published and became really widely known in Europe.
So mapmakers just went with his name because he kind of defined it as new.
Pretty much, yeah. It represented that huge shift in understanding what they'd actually found, kind of cemented his name onto the landmass.
Wow, okay. And then Colombia. That one seems more direct. Named after Cris Colombo.
Exactly. Christopher Columbus, as most people know him, he sailed for Spain, obviously,
Right, that's the connection most people know.
but he was Italian
Yeah.
from Genoa. So Colombia's name is a direct echo back to Italy.
It really highlights that complex situation, doesn't it? Explorers working for different flags, but bringing their own backgrounds.
Absolutely. Their origins traveled with them linguistically, too.
Okay, Venezuela. This one's fantastic. Little Venice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally Little Venice. Apparently, the stilt houses the early explorers saw in Lake Maracaibo reminded them strongly of Venice back in Italy.
You can almost picture it. That's such a direct visual link.
It really is. It shows how their frame of reference, their Italian heritage, directly shaped how they saw and named these completely new places.
And Costa Rica Rich Coast. That was also Cris Colombo.
Named by him, yes. Suggests, again, that initial impression, maybe of potential wealth, was filtered through his Italian perspective and language.
He seems to have been quite focused on resources with his naming.
It certainly seems that way from names like Rich Coast and later Rich Port.
Right. Okay, Argentina. Giovanni Caboto. John Cabot.
Another Italian explorer, yes. Though he sailed for England later.
Ah, okay.
But the name itself, Argentina, it relates to Argent.
Silver in Italian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So another Italian linguistic link right there in the name.
Brazil is an interesting case in the source material, named after the Brazil tree by the Portuguese.
Correct. That's the standard origin story.
But the text mentions these Portuguese explorers having like 20% Italian DNA.
Yeah, that's a fascinating detail mentioned. It's more subtle, suggesting this sort of background genetic heritage.
So not a direct naming by an Italian, but maybe a hint of that shared European ancestry, that interconnectedness.
Precisely. It hints at how complex these population movements and influences were, even back then.
Puerto Rico, back to Colombo, rich port.
Yep, another one attributed to Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Reinforces that idea of naming based on perceived economic potential.
St. Lucia is different, though, named after a saint.
Yes, St. Lucy of Syracuse in Sicily. So that's a direct Italian cultural or religious link, not just exploration.
Interesting distinction, and the list keeps going in the text. Antigua.
Also named by Cris Colombo.
St. Barthelemy.
That one's named after Bartolomeo Colombo.
His brother.
His brother, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The Columbus family influence was significant.
Martinique. Honduras.
Both also attributed to Cris Colombo in various accounts. It's quite a pattern.
It really is, just underscores his massive impact, and through him, Italy's impact on just putting names on the map in this region.
A huge footprint in terms of nomenclature.
Now, the source makes an important point we should stress.
Mm-hmm.
While these explorers, like Columbus, were Italian, they often worked for Spain, which itself had historical ties to Italy. And crucially, these names don't mean these countries are, majority Italian today.
Absolutely, essential point. We're talking about the origin of the name, that historical moment of naming by these explorers, not modern demographics or claiming the countries are Italian.
Right. It's purely about that linguistic and historical root.
Exactly. The link is in that act of naming centuries ago.
So the big takeaway for me, the real aha moment, is just how many really familiar places in Latin America and the Caribbean have this, hidden Italian layer to their names.
It's definitely unexpected for many people. a hidden history in plain sight embedded in the words we use every day.
Yeah. An unexpected Italian heritage, mainly through explorers like Vespucci and especially the Columbus family.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you wonder how many other everyday names, towns, rivers, streets, whatever, have similarly surprising stories buried inside them. What other cross-cultural histories are just waiting to be uncovered in the words we use?
A fascinating thought to leave with. Names carry so much history.
Indeed. Well, that was a great deep dive. Thanks for unpacking that.